Create with Fran Sidney. Hello everyone, welcome to the show. This is Fran Sidney, I'm your host, and we're going to talk today in episode 84 about the most important steps that a person needs to take to overcome anxiety, even when you think you are a completely lost case or situation. Trust me, when you will hear what I have to tell you, you will see that there is hope for everyone. So stay tuned. Around Christmas time last year, I was contacted by a person who had been suffering from severe panic attacks and anxiety for 3 years or so, following lots of personal problems. And this person was just thinking that no therapy has been able to help in the past, and basically the life of my client was going to be always being stuck home because the client couldn't do any social things, going out, use public transport, could not have any food shopping or go out to any shop at all, couldn't eat in a restaurant, would just be able to visit a relative that lived on the same road, and that was it. And this client really wanted to have a different life. So I decided to work together, and I'm glad to say that everything went absolutely fine, and I'm really proud of all the work that we've done together, and especially of the commitment and action the client has taken. So I will keep everything confidential. There will be no name or places, but the client knows who he or she is. So this client had a problem that every time there was an attempt to go out and be independent, there would be this sickness, this fear of throwing up, this feeling like jelly legs and couldn't breathe, and all these panic attacks. So the desire was to be able to leave the house without overthinking the worst case scenario. In fact, the client was avoiding all the possible unsafe places, would not go to anywhere when there was a safety exit somewhere, and would always throw away any food just before the expiration, just in case there was some possibility of throwing up. Also, it was impossible to watch any TV programs that were showing anything remotely close to throwing up or being sick. And this situation, of course, had made these young parents, because he was also a parent, life very, very difficult. And also very difficult to be at work, where a 9-to-5 shift, so not being able to go out if needed, was very, very tense, very difficult, and this would be expressed in a possible feeling not very good in the throat, something bug in the digestive area, something bad. I want to say that wasn't very good, just a gagging feeling that wasn't very pleasant. And so there was this fear, all the time there was this fear. The key word was being fearful of people that do not like me, I'm feeling bad about myself, my worth depends on what other people think. And also, this is a client with very handsome look and still not liking the body that the client has. It's just really incredible how we can really believe our thoughts and believe that all the stuff that happened in our past has defined us. And actually, the stuff that happened in our past has refined us and prepared us for today. But these past beliefs of my client have made it so there was no way of going out of them. It was like a cycle that was repeating over and over and was making the client very sick. So my client had many wishes. So number one was to release this anxiety, and then to also acquire enough confidence to go out and about and live a normal life, which for the client was basically impossible. The client felt it was like in a mental prison. And the client also wanted to understand how to stop these looping thoughts that were keeping everything anchored to the fear, to this disconnection from the outside. So basically, we wanted to transform a person that was stuck home, lack of confidence, etc., into a new person. So we had a session in December, and I saw my client being very anxious, shaky, and really you could see from the movement, from the breathing, the client felt, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen today? That's the first time I'm out of the house from a long, long while. But we managed very quickly. Within 2 or 3 minutes, the client was in trance. We had a lovely hypnotic session, and we had a regression. So that was the first step that my client took. It was a big, big step, was to get out of the house and come all the way to my house. And trust me that with the closed eyes, everything was going to be okay. The trance would come. Everything was going to come out. The emotions, the feelings, everything from the inner mind were going to be processed and released. And this happened. And I'm not going to tell you what happened during the session because that's confidential. But I'm just going to tell you that many beliefs were built during the life of a client that made the client think that, oh, if I express my opinion, there will be arguments and there will be possible huge problems, and then I will not have a relationship anymore. And this had actually led the client to have relationships that were not healthy. And of course, this was an addendum, another problem that was caused by this lack of confidence in the inner self, in us as human beings. We want to be loved, to be accepted, to be wanted. And instead we are feeling ugly, we are dreading things, we are singled out because maybe things that happen in school, etc. So this is also a very common thing nowadays among 20 years old to say that at school we're being bullied by people. So that's a point to remember, as you treat others, you might create long-term problems in them. So if you're doing that, if you're teasing people or bullying them at school or at work, maybe it's time to stop, because the damage you create is very, very hurtful for other people. It's important to be kind. So I would gather from this that the very first step that a person has to take when he or she wants to heal from anxiety is to understand that we are at the threshold, we have enough of the pain. We're so tired of the pain that we want to change. And as I quoted many times, change only happens when we are ready for it. When we have to decide and make a balance between the pain of staying as we are and the pain of change and doing something different, new, maybe complicated for us, but it will change everything. So this is a big step that my client took, and it was amazing to just get out of the house, come to my house, come to my office, sit down and open up and allow all these monsters to come out, to be dissected, to be analyzed, then to be reprocessed. So during this session, we were able to reprocess everything, reframe the feelings, and understand a little bit more about anxiety. The client had picked the 6-week program, the big transformation program that includes basically almost unlimited coaching, RTT, and follow-up sessions. So I was just there, I was available anytime to talk and to see how things were. So we had all the time we wanted, and we could use it to see how things were going. This was very, very good. The second step of this was to check how the session went by taking action straight away. Why? Because we wanted to validate that things had happened in the way that we wanted them to happen. And it was very interesting to hear the client saying, I'm now, stringing everything together. I can see that. So before we said bye-bye, me and the client went to a local supermarket, which is literally 2 minutes from my house. And we stayed almost an hour inside the supermarket. We went upstairs into a balcony area inside where you can see in a little part of a city. We had some food, actually I had some cake, the client didn't, and I encouraged the client to look around and to see, you're stuck here on top, do you feel any fear? No. We went around all the aisles. Usually my client completely avoids all the aisles that are very, very far away from the doors because there is no exit and it's dangerous. But this time we went and we looked at all the foods, we talked about prices, we talked about everything. There was no panic attack whatsoever, and that was the first time that this client was out in a supermarket in 3 years. So I sent then later on some videos to explain more things about anxiety and how it works. So that would be step number 3, to be educated. People need to be educated about their condition or their situation so that they can understand how it works and how we can stop it. So step number 4 is to take as many follow-ups as normal. So once a week it's okay, but I was actually available every day just in case the client had maybe an unexpected panic attack or maybe a resurfacing of the old stuff. Meanwhile, we have taken the step of making a recording, a hypnotic recording, written, a bespoke text designed for the person, and able to rewire the neurons by repeating something new, the new belief the client wants to install. And this is step number 4, because we do not just want to lose the anxiety, lose the self-confidence. We want to replace them with something really good, really useful, that is in line with our future goals, with the image, the vision that we have of our future life. So I got my follow-ups, and I was very, very happy to hear the client was going out every single day and didn't have anxiety most of the times, definitely feeling a lot calmer, seeing the mom, seeing the friends, seeing people around, doing more and more things, and even going to doctor's appointments or supermarkets. And usually things like being in a line for a long while would be very worrying, but this was not going on. We also then had a coaching session, and this is step 5, I think, if I'm counting correctly, and this was talking about relationships. The idea was to be able to set up those boundaries that allow a healthy relationship to happen with a proper person in our lives, so that we are equal and equally yoked, and not just a person making all the decisions and the other person being a victim. So all this was really enlightening to see, wow, if I am planning this, I can then be ready to spot the person that has the quality I'm looking for, instead of randomly dating people that do not have any way of complementing my character, my personality, and my needs. I want to date somebody who is a match and who could have much higher possibilities of having a balanced relationship. So that was very, very good. And that was our step number 5. And I have more and more steps that we take. So we went from a commitment, the change, going out, and then started to have more clarity on the things that are around anxiety. One being relationships, because relationships were one of the aspects that were not doing very, very well at all up to the day we had the session. After then, we wrote down who or what was going to help to achieve the goal, which material the person was going to read to understand from a coaching session, who he or she wanted to date. All this stuff was all written down, so there was material there to read, there was something to think about. And we talked about the possible obstacles that the client could encounter and how it was possible to maybe ask for people to help, or ask maybe in other ways, because sometimes we have a therapy, sometimes we have a book, sometimes we have a course, we might have relatives, we have techniques to use. There are hundreds of things we can do. We are all resourceful. Sometimes we don't realize we are. But if you start asking the right questions, you get all these things out. And every one of us has the possibility to change for good and to really, really raise ourselves higher than ever. And then, of course, establish healthier relationships and raise our own children in a better way, because we are limiting all these anxious thoughts and to the normal, because anxiety is there to protect us from damage. But it shouldn't be there day and night unless we are in a war, in a very treacherous situation where the bombs falling, then we are supposed to be anxious. But unless this is happening, something really terrible, we shouldn't be anxious every day for the whole day, because it's not good for our body. And when we are anxious, we have cortisol levels that are really, really high. And we are always in a fight or flight situation that is detrimental for our health and is also really, really bad for our immune system. As you know, when the cortisol levels are really high, our immune system cannot work properly. So we are more likely to become ill, which for some people will mean that they will have more anxiety, thus creating one of those cycles that you don't want to repeat over and over. You want to get out of it. And so that's why we had the sessions, the coaching, and all the follow-ups, because it just wasn't enough to just do one session. We needed a little bit more. But we never thought about having therapy for 20 years. We just got on with the work and we got lovely results. I have now really lost count of all the steps, but another good one that we took was to really understand that anxiety is when we are imagining these terrible things, and our mind is so fantastic. It can create images, scents, sounds, sensations, and our body will then create a response. So we're going to have a physiological response to our thoughts. But guess what? If we're so good at creating this image and then feeling so awful, that means that our mind is so good in creating the opposite. We just have to choose different thoughts. And because of this, I have shared a goal generator exercise with my client, and I want you to try this because it will help you a lot. Okay, so if you have just a minute, close your eyes, stop for a moment doing anything that you are doing, and imagine that in front of you is another you, and this other you has just achieved the goal, whatever the goal is. So I want you to spend a minute and just imagine what you would look like. Imagine how you will feel like. What will it sound like? Because you have achieved your goal. So, was it to decrease your weight? Was it to feel less anxious? Was it to find a new person for a relationship or improve your own relationship that you already have? Was it to be confident or to avoid procrastination? It doesn't matter. I just want you to imagine how it will feel, sound like, feel like when you have achieved this. Once you build up this picture in your mind, and maybe it isn't exactly how you would like it, I want you to adjust this picture. See yourself looking and feeling absolutely fantastic. See yourself having achieved the goal. Obviously, we're talking about a realistic goal, okay? Don't come up with something like, I'm going to the moon next year, or I'm going to Mars with Elon Musk. That's not a goal. So now I want you to make this picture just as perfect as possible. Feel it. Imagine that it's there. Allow your body, allow your brain to make all this little important connection to build this image in your mind. And then connect the picture to the feelings and make sure that you feel it in the now and not as something that you see in the future. Think that this is happening now. When you are happy that this is the other you, that is amazing, that has got this big success, that is doing well, is happy, is no longer anxious or overweight or whatever your goal was, now I want you to step into this new you. Look inside the eyes of this you. Step inside it. You can even step like putting a cross imagine that there is a cross on the floor in front of you, and just move there. And then notice how it feels. Now you are inside, you are blended, you are merged with this other you. You have achieved the goal. Notice how you feel. Notice your new perspective, the new behavior that you will have. All the beliefs that you have now about yourself, because you have achieved this important goal. And now I want you to think of a situation that you would like to view from this new perspective that you have. The perspective that you have now because you have achieved this goal and you're happy about it. So how are the things going to be so much better now? How is your life going to change? How are your thoughts changing? How are your reactions, your actions, your fears? How are your goals changing? This is a wonderful neuro-linguistic programming exercise that everyone in the NLP world knows very well. Visualization. If you visualize yourself hitting a ball, you're a basketball player, you're hitting the ball, you're going as fast as everyone else, even a little bit faster, you're jumping. You keep visualizing that. You will get this to happen. You can have the energy. And your energy will always go to what you are focusing on. And so, let's pick up this exercise. What happens to my client? The client practices this exercise. It doesn't just sit there like a victim. The client goes out, goes shopping, and everything else. And eventually gets into a new habit. Now, there is sometimes a period where we think that the therapy hasn't worked because one day something goes wrong in some area of our life and suddenly we're back to our previous thinking, just a habit of thinking. And this is quite common, nothing to be worried about. For this reason, I wasn't too worried when my client contacted me just a month after the initial session to tell me that there was a little bit of anxiety creeping up. But then, as the client took action again, I said, no, I'm just gonna go out every day. The client felt so much calmer, etc., and feeling very proud as the confidence level was going up and up and up. And the client was doing new things every day. So I would have thought that step number 6 and number 7 is to take consistent action, because those thoughts will crumble, those old beliefs that we hold so dear about ourselves, that we are a failure, that we cannot do things, they eventually crash because we are challenging them by taking action. So that's very, very important that we push past this high anxiety. Even if it comes back, we're like, well, we're not listening. Because the important thing there is to realize that our mind is like a theater with lots of actors, and we decide on which play we're going to play, who are the actors, what's the script. We are the directors. So when we see that this is not happening right, that the actors are coming up and ruining the production that we have in mind, we can just say, well, we don't want that. Just get out of my way. I don't want to listen to this. I want my own productions. You just stop playing your own thing. And our brain eventually understands that. So we had a wonderful time. And what happened is that after working with more coaching and everything else, we had another little obstacle that the client had a trip that was supposed to happen, and then it was cancelled because of COVID, and then there was a bit of depression there, anxiety. Oh no, I can't go out again. I just said, no way, I believe in you, you can do this. Come on, what has to happen for you to go out again? So we talked, we had a little coaching session, and within hours the client was up and about, full of energy, and forgot all about the anxiety and just out shopping, and all these activities, going to see people and doing all the stuff that my client was getting used to do. So then we had a coaching session just about work, going to work again, training the future, visualize the future, how to get there, which steps to take. How was this important? It was really important because the client now has not only the fact that anxiety is gone, but also got a new life, something to look forward to, and a way to meet people, to get out of a shell, and to get more motivation and feeling great, because all this anxiety and all this problem with food, with doors that have to be there, with food that has to be a certain type, otherwise they're all gone. And so that's why I got a really good review in the end from a very happy client. I'm just going to read you because you're going to see the steps one by one. I contacted Franz as I was struggling with emetophobia, constant anxiety, panic attacks whenever I tried to socialize and to go outside. I had worked with other therapists in the past and felt they never understood me. When I spoke to Franz, I felt like somebody finally understood how I was feeling and somebody that could and wanted to actually help. So we worked together. When I did hypnotherapy with Franz, I found out the first time I had the anxious and insecure feeling and was able to let memories go. Straight after the session, Franz took me to the local supermarket where it was very busy, and I was able to look around, something I hadn't done in years. We also stopped for a coffee in the cafe, something else I hadn't done for years, and I felt no anxiety. For several weeks I was doing really well out and about every day, but then after cancelling a trip I felt my anxiety was back and that I would never heal, and this is how I would always have to live. Just going down the street was full of anxiety and worry for me. But Franz didn't let me give up. So we did another coaching session to put myself back on track, reminding me of different techniques to manage anxiety when it does creep in. All while sending me different sources of information to have a read for myself on how anxiety works and breaking the cycle. We also did coaching sessions with relationships, work and diet. My life is now completely back on track and I am in control of my life now. I've learned that when you take action daily, you get positive results. Franz gave me the push to have the confidence to do it and believe in myself. I have now been over 2 months and my life has changed. Every day I go out and I feel that life is as it's supposed to be and have gained so much independence. Recently it was my mom's birthday and she said the best gift was seeing out and about again. Obviously, probably she wanted to say something, seeing me out. I'm now waiting to do a course in beauty therapy and have a clear career path ahead of me with the help of Franz. I would recommend working with Franz because you can tell how much she really cares about her clients. He's given me my life back. It was one of the best decisions I've ever made, and I'll always be so grateful. She then wrote to me, "Thank you again for your help and not letting me give up." Reading over the old feelings I used to feel, I'd even forgotten I used to feel the way about certain things. I do so much without even thinking about it now. So, I hope that this was useful for you, to know that it's absolutely 100% possible to step out of this anxiety mode, to be better, to feel better, to change your life. You have the steps laid out very, very clearly in front of you. First, you want to be on the verge of the pain, you have enough of it, you're committed 100% to invest in yourself, to take the time to heal, to understand, to learn what anxiety is, to move on, to leave it aside. And then you want the creation of this new life. You want to do this maybe with a book, with a course, with a therapy, with a friend, on your own. However you want to do it. You want to take the commitment to 100%. And after you do that, you look back, and when you are kind of falling a little bit, You want to have the tools and the education to understand that this is a natural part of healing from anxiety, or maybe from many other problems. So you look back and you think, I can do this. It's really about endurance sometimes. I can do this, I can conquer this. Everybody will have some period where they are anxious about something. If you look around in the world, there's so much that we can be worried about, but there is also so much good that we can be focused on. So if that is you now, if you need help to step out of this life of anxiety and to move towards the true self, the true person that is inside you, that wants to be loved and accepted and wants to be feeling confident and happy to do things, come to me and I will help you. And I hope that this episode was useful for you, and you know where to get me on fransidney.com, and you can always send me at calendly.com/fransidney. Little appointment so we can have a free consultation, and then you can start taking the first step to have freedom from anxiety. Thank you for being with me, and I'll see you next week. Take care. Bye. You've listened to Create with Fran Sidney.